Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective. Tran, another week, another preview. I know everybody. Let's get it out the bat right now. Right off the bat, everybody's nervous about this game. This is the classic Tom Herman special, Tran, right after a big top 10 victory on the road, which we haven't had in a long time, but we had that last week against Oklahoma State. And now everybody's like, you see, Tom Herman's going to come back and blow it. We come back to Austin against a very good West Virginia team coming off a big win against Kansas State. So what's your level of concern right off the bat? Just that whole nervousness I feel in our fan base right now.
Extremely concerned. I mean, I said this before when we picked Oklahoma State to win. That this has all the familiarities of a Tom Herman game. That's what I said. I mean, so far half of that has come true. You know, I'm just really worried, especially with the preparation on this week, with them always taking off them taking off Sunday. They always do that, but the extra day of preparation
For the election day.
Yes, yeah. It worries me, and I know it affects both teams because both teams have that off. But it's when we're not the most disciplined team in the world, you know, practice helps out immensely. So us being worried, I know we'll go into West Virginia prep a little bit. We'll touch on extra items that make us a little bit scared about this team. But you know,
Sure.
I'm extremely worried about this team.
So I want to make some announcements right off the bat because there's a few housekeeping things and there's some news that we need to cover before we get into our West Virginia preview. First off, while you're here, attendance, hit that like button, show us some love. We appreciate the growth of the channel. I don't know if I mentioned it, we crossed over 7,000 subscribers, so very thankful for you guys hitting the subscribe button, showing us some love. So as you come through, you like what we do, you enjoy the content on this channel, the best way to support us is hitting that like button and subscribing for updates and notifications for the latest videos. Now, we had said we were going to do a live this week. Now, the election obviously being Tuesday night, we wanted to have, everybody's focused on, getting out voting and following their local and federal elections. So we're doing our preview here on Wednesday night. And we will actually, since we have a bye after this game, it'll be a lot easier for us to get some lives in, during the bye week. Now, for those of you who follow me on Instagram, and if you're not following us on Instagram, please either look in the description. I'll even try to put a comment for my Instagram handle below. There is going to be a live chat discussion that I am going to be doing with Texas Longhorns football news on Friday evening, 7 p.m. Central Time, exclusively on Instagram. We're going to be talking about Texas football as well as the West Virginia game and all things kind of revolving around the program. That's going to be a live chat discussion on Instagram. So anybody that's on IG, just IG Live, you'll be able to weigh in. We'll be able to see all your comments. But I'm excited to go on. We've actually done some joint content before on Instagram during recruiting. It was more impromptu. This one we're actually promoting all week. So if you're not following me on Instagram, please do that if you want to see the Friday live and have a little extra time with us to preview that. Now, Tran, let's talk politics because, there's a lot of political stuff going on. And the first political issue I want to touch on is the silence of Chris Del Conte. Now, he finally said something and congratulated the team after their victory over Oklahoma State, but everyone said, hey, that silence is so powerful in terms of what that means for Tom Herman. And we heard the report of him allegedly reaching out to a booster. This is not based on any source.
This is hearsay.
Hearsay, exactly. And I just wanted to start there in terms of him already trying to accumulate funds for Urban Meyer. Because if realistically, if that's a move that Texas is going to make, that has to start now in terms of the back channeling, right? Regardless of what things are playing out. But just your overall thoughts there of how the athletic director is moving right now.
So I didn't like it. I mean, regardless, even if you are shopping another head coach around, we talked about disrespect to the players last week with us not backing them up or anything like that. You're disrespecting the players right there. They had Joseph Ossai had one of the best games we've ever seen. Even if he just specifically called out what a defensive game by Joseph Ossai, something like that, even if he acknowledged it, it's unacceptable as the athletic director.
To wait like half a week before you say something.
Yeah. It could have been just like, it could have just.
And he said nothing after the Baylor game, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. He could have just tweeted, hook him. Like that. He could have just tweeted that. I mean, it's not even, but.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is, it's a little bit disrespectful. I mean, to the kids. Understandably, I know he's got to keep it business and keep it straightforward with a head coaching situation. But it was wrong. It was wrong. It was a big win. It was a big win, especially for the confidence of this program. Mm-hmm. And if you're not backing it up from a leadership perspective, it looks foolish.
I agree with you. I think I agree with you from the standpoint of you can do two things at once, right? You can still support the players. You don't have to say anything about the coach, because I do think there's a real rift between him and Tom Herman, especially considering what happened with the eyes. That was clear as day, read between the lines. And you have the situation where Tom Herman was not hired by Chris Del Conte, right? And there's always that weird dynamic there when, you weren't necessarily the one that brought me in. I came after you. So I think there's a rift there. I think there's even the potential that Tom Herman could have said, get off my back and let me run this football team, and let's let the chips fall where they may. If I'm going to go out, I'm going to go out on my terms, type of thing. I think that's a very realistic behind the scenes conversation that could have happened. In terms of Chris Del Conte's silence, I think he was trying to send a message. I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know if I view it the same way as people who are rooting against the program from like the fan base perspective. I totally see where you're coming from in terms of acknowledgement and saying something. I think if he had said like hook 'em, great win, that would have kind of been like that perfect passive aggressive, like, energy to put forth.
Still check the box.
But you check, like you just did the bare minimum.
Your job is the athletic director for the University of Texas. But and your flagship team had a big win on the road, and you wait half a week to say something.
So, hey, a lot of people are going to agree with you. It's petty.
It's petty, but to me, it's just frustrating because you're getting pettiness from both sides. You're getting it from Tom Herman, because Tom Herman's throwing shade at Del Conte with the eyes portion, where he's like, they didn't tell me anything. Like, we're gonna do what we want, and then it's just them going like, I'm gonna do this. Sure. It's embarrassing from a leadership perspective, just in my eyes.
Gotcha. And going back to the point of doing two things at once, you can say all the right things and be totally on board and still be going and negotiating with Urban Meyer.
Yeah.
You can do two things at once. So, like, we'll leave it at that. Now, speaking of Tom Herman and Joseph Ossai, which you mentioned both of them, Tom Herman won Coach of the Week, and Joseph Ossai was named National Defensive Player of the Week. And, the Tom Herman Coach of the Week thing, I'll do with that information what you will. I can't wait to hear people chime in the comments about that, but you can't take that W away from him. As for Joseph Ossai, this is the beginning, not even the beginning, but this is the validation that we're starting to see, because the scouts started to drool on social media. You saw Matt Miller, Dane Brugler, who guys I really respect. I really enjoy Dane Brugler, who works for the Athletic. Matt Miller, formerly of Bleacher Report. I think he left Bleacher Report this week, and he's going to be, I think, doing his own independent thing. But he did come out with a mock draft, and Matt Miller had Joseph Ossai at 16 overall going to the Dolphins in his most recent mock. And then Mel Kiper came out this week after reviewing film and really studying up and was like, hey, I'm going to be adding Joseph Ossai to my top 25 big board for 2021. It's a big deal for Texas. Again, we have not had a first round.
Quoted as saying he blows them away. He
blew them away.
Game blew away. Yeah. So I mean that's huge.
Huge deal for Texas. Yeah. We haven't had a first round pick since 2014, man. Mm-hmm. So, and it's sad that it's sad that we're even saying that, but coming off of one of the greatest games we've seen from a Texas defender in a really, really long time, it's cool to see Joseph Ossai get that attention. It's well deserved.
Yeah, I agree completely. I scroll through the comments every now and then. Someone made a great comment actually that I remember was, so at this point, who do you think's the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year, Joseph Ossai or Terrell Bernard? I was like, oof. Because if Terrell Bernard was on a winning team, his name would be all over the page because he was all over the place for Baylor's defense. So, and we actually like to look at it just from more than just wins and losses,
sure,
and the effect that they have on the game. And he has a big time effect on the game, a Joseph Ossai effect on the game type of thing. I would give the tip of the hat to Ossai right now because of the wins and losses. I know we're supposed to not look at it from our perspective, but you know, Terrell Bernard is a great linebacker as well.
I think it was Texas that tweeted today that Joseph Ossai is leading the country in tackles for loss and forced fumbles. If you're leading in those two categories nationally, it's really hard. Yes. On top of adding, I think he has 4 sacks on the season right now or something like that. I mean, the numbers, just off a statistical standpoint, it's getting really difficult to say that he's not the best. Like, objectively speaking, he wouldn't be the defensive player of the year. And we've had guys even under this regime win defensive lineman of the year. I believe Charles Omenihu won, Poona Ford. So we're starting to build up at least some sort of reputation there for what that's worth. But Joseph Ossai would be my Big 12 defensive player of the year if the season ended right now. And we gave a lot of love to Terrell Bernard. There's some really good players that we still have to see Jaquan Bailey and some other really, really good defensive players. Herbert from Kansas State, but Joseph Ossai right now, even in the Oklahoma game, you go back and watch our Oklahoma video. I was adamant about saying, both teams, Joseph Ossai was the best player on either team. So the praise is well deserved, and now he's already being mocked in the top 20 of the NFL draft. How much higher can he go? Can he get on that fringe top 10? He plays a position. 2 things that were cited about him. A, he plays a position of high value, right? As a pass rusher, his versatility will allow him to play multiple schemes. Chris Ash also pointed this out when talking about Joseph Ossai, because Chris Ash was comparing him to the Bosas, which he got a chance to coach, as well as J.J. Watt.
That's high praise.
One of the things he was saying when he was talking about the differences is Joseph can cover. He was like, Joseph is also a good cover guy, right? Like, and can be a traditional linebacker. Like, that's the level of versatility. The mock guys are also citing the same thing in terms of like what he's going to be able to give a defensive coordinator on top of 1,000% A+ effort, right? And Chris Ash was like, he's the best practice player on our team. Nobody goes harder every single practice. Like, he's the one giving the whole team energy every single practice, and people keep harping on that. NFL people eat that stuff up. They love that
motor.
Stuff. The motor.
Yep.
They're big on it. It also speaks to culture, right? So those high praise for Joseph Ossai. We need him to continue winning out there on the field for our team and as an individual. Now, I want to move on to some of the pressure stuff before we get into West Virginia as we move forward. So two other things. Tom Herman, and this is a question for you, Tran. Tom Herman, I believe in his pressers, said he's not calling the plays. It's Mike Yurcich calling plays. He may chime in with suggestions. How much of that do you believe?
10%.
Ooh.
It's like I only
Wow.
believe it in terms of we didn't rush. I think his is just he knows this offense and he knows that we hum really well when the power the QB power is working. We didn't even really attempt it that much last game, and knowing what we think we know about Sam being injured, I think that might have been a Yurcich wrinkle that he's like, hey, I want to protect him. We'll try to get the ball out of his hand a little bit faster and make him do back shoulder throws, because there's a lot of back shoulder throws that were just off last week, and I noticed that when rewatching the game. So that's why I'm giving it 10% that Tom's not calling the plays, and it's Yurcich 100%. That's the only reason why I'm giving it 10%.
And it's interesting because Tom has the play sheet. So
yeah,
that's number one. Number two, I think he's telling a half truth. I'm not going to go to the extreme you just did. I respect your opinion, my friend, but I do think I'm willing to give him the credit that majority of the plays are being called by Mike Yurcich, but they're running Tom Herman offense for the most part, if that makes sense. It's not necessarily like, some sort of like kind of what they were doing with the Tim Beck, Drew Maringer thing, where it was like a committee play caller. Sometimes they have like the run game coordinator and pass game coordinator type thing. I think it's more of a collaborative effort than he's leading on or than he's disclosing to the media. But I don't believe him. I'm not taking his word 100% face value there. So, and I also think part of that is just due to the situation the team they're facing with the team and COVID too. Not getting like how much were they able to install versus, hey, we got to try to win games and this is just what we got to do right now. But when you watch this offense, and I think Mike Gundy was somebody that alluded to it too, is like this is what Texas has been doing. Like I don't see all these. There's wrinkles every now and again, like that triple option play we've been running. That's a Yurcich play. The RPO slant that we were banging on earlier in the season, that's a Yurcich play. I think some of the outside zone concepts that we've been running, trying to execute a little bit more, I think those are Yurcich plays. But for the most part, like you said, with our power stuff and back shoulder stuff that we try to do to the bigger guys or whatever, that's what we've been doing for years. I don't see any difference. So I think that's an interesting discussion that will continue throughout the rest of the season. I don't think he put that to rest with, as candid as he was trying to be at that answer. Now, Chris Ash was somebody who I thought was interesting because I already mentioned his discussion about, when he was asked about comparing the pass rushers and guys he's had the opportunity to coach. But the big thing, as well as the defense played, a lot of praise that they're getting, and we've been harping on this channel about them getting better each week. A lot of people are concerned about the corners and, how they got attacked, Tylan Wallace specifically, against Oklahoma State. And he kind of confirmed something we said in our previous video. We outright said the corners are being taught to play hands, and that was just based upon what we were seeing them do. Now, he clarified that. He said that they are instructed to play hands based upon where they're positioned. If they're behind the receiver in coverage, and this is pretty much for 9 routes and comebacks, right? Like when we're going down the field and both of us are sprinting, right? If I'm behind, we're playing hands, right? I'm trying to play the hands or rip through and try to get the ball out. To your point about the Jalen Green play where you're like, I liked his technique, but he didn't rip all the way through and dislodge the ball. He did say they are taught, though, something called a concept of vertical control. And that's where you have to utilize your discernment on how you're going to play, whether or not you're going to play hands or if you're going to try to look for the ball, looking lean, and try to play the ball like you're a receiver if you're stacked on top of the receiver. And he basically said they're struggling with that right now. They're trying to get those things coached up. So just your take as a DB on what you're seeing out there. He did say, hey, we had some cases where, teams are going to identify us on film with those issues, and they're going to keep calling PIs on us
Yeah,
until we prove we can fix it.
yeah,
I thought he was very open about that. He's like, they're going to keep, because he was like, if you're offense, why wouldn't you keep attacking us? You're either going to catch it or you're going to get a pass interference. The way we're struggling to make that delineation between when we're supposed to look and when we're supposed to rip through the hand. So, how do you think we can improve there? Just what are you seeing?
Well, I mean, we saw a little bit of improvement when we saw Deshaun Jameson actually adjust to it later on in the game. It's something that, I mean, if you're practicing, hey, swiping at the hands, if you're getting by every getting by the defensive backs and the coverage, and it's really kind of hard for us to simulate that within practice too at the same time, because we don't have those types of game breakers right now that are just, hey, go deep and get a step on the defensive backs. Our most athletic people, honestly, are on the defensive side. So it's really hard to simulate real life game action, especially a Tylan Wallace. So that's one of the things that we're leaving out, is how good of a player Tylan Wallace is. Like, he's phenomenal. So yeah, he accrued what, 170 something yards for 169, something like that,
Yeah,
against
something
us.
crazy. Yeah,
But he also got 4 pass interferences on us. So that's hidden yardage right there. And it's him and the quarterback knowing that, hey, they're playing aggressive and one-on-one against this guy. He's most likely going to go up and get.
and if I underthrow it,
yeah, it's good. So we're not going to be facing another Tylan Wallace. Doesn't mean that we're not going to be facing someone who has talent enough to get past our defense. But I think with the drop off in the talent level, we could actually start utilizing the new practices of actually playing the ball, as opposed to playing the ball and playing the man when he turns his head over his left shoulder, his right shoulder, to turn and try to see the ball and get one hand up and still play the hands. But it's something that I'm not really upset about, honestly, because last year, I want to say it was last year, when Oklahoma was just awful at coverage. They put their defensive backs on an island. How many times did they get called for pass interference? They're just like, all right, we'll just be physical with it.
Yeah, they did. They just told
Yeah.
people to start beating them up. We don't care if we get PIs. Not that we don't care, but like, that's a good point.
Yeah,
Motley especially.
And I think we're in that situation right now, where we're starting to see our pass rush starting to get home a little bit, and that we could actually make them throw a little bit underthrown balls, where the cornerbacks get used to that they know that, hey, this play we're bringing 5, so we should have pressure coming from the left side. So most likely if he's going to throw deep against me, it's going to be underthrown. It's just a mental thing at that point. But I really think the hardest part is simulating it in practice right now, because I don't think we have that guy who could just break down one-on-one against our best athlete. I still think that Deshaun Jameson's one of our best athletes. Same thing with Thompson is one of our best athletes on that side of the ball.
So when you look at from a standpoint, I think you broke that down great, man, because and one of the things you said that I hadn't considered is the athleticism and being able to simulate that. But I think the other point you made that's really valid is competition, because the Baylor game, we didn't struggle on the outside. I mean, it depends on who you're facing. If you're facing Tylan Wallace, yeah, you're going to struggle, especially the game plan we had where we were very open about selling out to stop their run game with Chuba Hubbard.
Yeah.
Right. And so you got to give up something. Right. And so, but it also gave us the opportunity to generate turnovers. And I think another fantastic point you made was pass rush. Pass rush is starting. We're improving. I think right now we're grading out as the best overall, like, defensive line grade in terms of Pro Football Focus in the Big 12. We have like I think an 80 grade right now, which is great. And so as we're continuing to get better there and marrying our coverage, that was one of my biggest problems with Todd Orlando, was the coverage didn't always marry up with what y'all are doing up front. I think Chris Ash's actually makes more sense with what he's trying to do, because he said it too. He's like, "Yo, I'm not." He kind of got really defensive about it. He's like, "We're not scared. We're gonna keep playing press coverage. They just got to get better with their technique. But I'm not going to have them. Yeah, there's times where we do play bail technique in terms of some of our zones where we're trying to get a little bit more exotic. But for the most part, like if we're with our pass rush, we're going to press. And we got to play better. We got to use our hands better. All those things that they're working on. Jay Valai, Chris Ash with the safeties, like it's the development. Now I want to move on to West Virginia. I think Neil Brown is doing a good job over there. They're coming to the game 4-2, and one of the better defense. To me, when I look at West Virginia, from a positives, balance, good defense. I think they're good pass defense and run defense. I think they've been pretty solid. I think there's a lot of balance where they have offensively, and seeing what Neil Brown's already been able to do in year 2. Jared Dagey, second in the Big 12 in passing. Letty Brown, second in the Big 12 in rushing. Winston Wright, third in the Big 12 in receiving. Good balance there. And then he's actually got some stars on the defensive side of the ball. So I see a lot of balance with West Virginia coming into this game. Last year we went to Morgantown. We saw Austin Kendall. We tore his ass up. Jared Dagey's got a much better arm, I feel like, and he'll fire it in there, and he's been a little bit better, more accurate throwing downfield. I think the one thing we'll be able to take advantage, though, because they're kind of balanced like Oklahoma State was in terms of the good back, good receiver, good quarterback. He's not a runner. He's like, I think his longest run of the year is 8 yards. So he's not going to run around on us. He's not super athletic. So that's a guy who we're going to be able to try to heat him up and get some pressure and try to force them into some mistakes. I think the game plan is going to be similar, Tran, one-dimensional and trying to shut down Letty Brown. Talk to me about Letty Brown, because I know you've seen some really interesting things scheme-wise from what they're doing with him.
So Letty Brown is the way he moves is kind of a lot like Chuba Hubbard a little bit, honestly. Good balance, good little pop out. From the 2 games that I saw that were teams that were kind of similar to us, I would say Kansas State and Oklahoma State, was that he didn't really have a ton of success in between the tackles, which I think is our strong suit, honestly.
Defensively,
defensively, he's had great success outside the tackles, whether it's just off tackle, or if it's just a sweep, or even if it's it's supposed to be in between, is it just a dive, and he pops it out, so it's someone that you need to hit right away and wrap up. You have to wrap up, because if you don't, he's going to break the tackles and he's going to bust off another 15 yards. So it's good that we played a Chuba Hubbard type last game to have that little simulation of that, and to be prepared on how to handle it and gap control and making sure we keep containment,
sure.
which I thought we did a great job last week. So if we make him one-dimensional, I am a little bit worried about Dagey, because he is a better passer than Spencer Sanders. And he's one thing that Tom Herman said in his presser was that his first thing about his assessment of Dagey was quick release. And then he said accuracy. That's what you see with him. And from the film study that I watched of him, he's right on point. What they like to do is they like to get their athletes in space. So if you're playing soft coverage on them, they'll run a really quick slant with they'll run trips on the left hand or right hand side. They'll run a really quick slant on the person who has the soft coverage, and the other ones they're running deep and testing to see if you can keep up with them and tackle in space.
And reading that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So from a defensive perspective, we need to make him uncomfortable. We need to get pressure with 4 Of course, we'll throw in a blitz here and there and stuff like that. We need to control the line of scrimmage, and we need to keep Letty Brown in check. Honestly, and by in check, I mean I would like to see if he ran the ball 20 times. If he runs 20 or under, I want to keep him under 100 yards.
So this is where some opportunity comes in for Texas before we get to West Virginia's defense, because to me the key to the game is West Virginia's defense versus our offense.
Mm-hmm.
Strength on weakness, at least where we're at right now.
Oh, 100%.
But my skepticism with West Virginia is level of competition. So they lost to Texas Tech. And Texas Tech held Letty Brown in check. He had some good stuff in, especially in the red zone. He's a good red zone runner. He already has 8 touchdowns on the ground. But Texas Tech held him to 79 yards and below 4 yards rushing. They're not gangbusters in the run game by any means, right? From a defensive standpoint. And even some of the other games that we've talked about, yeah, he's had higher volume, but West Virginia feasted on or banged up Kansas State team that's, they're struggling to compete without Skylar Thompson. Baylor in their first game, I think that was Baylor's first game if I'm not mistaken, after all the cancellations. Western Kentucky and Kansas and Tech, right? And so they lost to Oklahoma State and they lost to Tech at Lubbock. To me, that's a bad loss. And, you start to look at it like, okay, you've played backup quarterback in Will Howard. You played Henry Colombi on Tech, who's replacing Alan Bowman. Loss. You played Ellingsworth on Oklahoma State. Loss. And, whatever Kansas is doing at quarterback, and then Charlie Brewer, like who's been pushing West Virginia like that is my thing, right? And again, we'll get to that, but guys like Winston Wright, they got weapons. Winston Wright, TJ Simmons, they use their tight ends. Sam James is still there, who was, a mark man. They got some good weapons that we're going to have to be on check for. I just think that I'm starting to really trust DeMarvion Overshown. And I like the way Juwan Mitchell is synced up playing behind, whether it's Coburn or Sweat or Graham. He's diagnosing stuff a lot better.
He's finding the gap and hitting it.
Yes. He is doing a much better job than he was at the beginning of the year. And it's gone from a very large weakness, and even after Delhi went down, right? We were really, really like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And Overshown has been taking that step every single week, making plays.
Yeah.
See that
getting his hands on the ball, forcing fumbles.
Yes.
Making tackles, and he's doing the things that we were hoping. He wasn't playing too fast, where he's over pursuing a tackle. So he's getting better at chopping it down and just making a play.
He really has. He's gotten in season. This is something that's going to be recurring over this conversation we're having. In season development. Say it with me. In season
development.
Right? Because at the beginning of the year, he was going 100 miles an hour at everything. And now we're seeing him learn how to throttle that speed. That's a big development key, right? Like that we're seeing him improve. Now, he's still fast when he needs to be. For example, Oklahoma State runs a sweep or a screen, and he's trailing and he needs to get there for an angle. That's when you go 100 miles an hour, right? Like he's still got that, and he's even doing it on special teams. But there's other times where you're still reading, diagnose, slow play, use your leverage, get outside, boom, make the tackle. Don't overrun it. And he's getting there. And then he ran full speed when he blasted Spencer Sanders, not Spencer Sanders, LD Brown last week and forced the fumble. So learning how to go back and forth, and he is really developing. And I'm seeing in-season development. Shout out to Coleman Hutzler and what they're doing there. I think our defensive line, we're seeing in-season development there. So those are good signs. Now, where I get concerned, and I want to move over to the Stills brothers. because we have our hands full. And we had our hands full last year in Morgantown. We struggled. That was actually so LSU. We kind of got an idea. Okay, offensive line might have some issues with some stunts, but we still like the offensive line. Then the West Virginia game came, and it's like, oh, this is something we really got it cleaned up, because I think we played them before we played Oklahoma last year, before we really got exposed. But this is a game now where we're coming in as a unit. We're struggling. We think our quarterback is not really healthy. Where do you want to start on this conversation? Because Stills brothers are a tremendous duo that we're going to deal with this week.
So once again, going back to the film prep that I watched, I tried to watch previous games of similar teams. Was Oklahoma State and Kansas State. They don't bring a lot of 5-man blitzes, an extra man for a blitz. It's usually 4, 3, or 2.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because of those 2 guys. And they're getting pressure on the quarterback. Now, what's our weakness of this team?
Protecting the quarterback.
Mm-hmm. So it's extremely nerve-wracking to see that we're this far, and if we cannot hold up a 3-man rush, there's big issues. I know that they're this good, but if you can't double team and give the quarterback enough time to read a defense or try to go through a progression and take off running, we need to give Sam 4 to 5 seconds to diagnose, because they drop a lot. I think I was telling you from what I was viewing was that they run a lot of zone between the 20s, a lot of zone. So there's going to be some spots where you can pinpoint passing, find the soft spots of the zone, but you need the time to actually get that developed. And if the offensive line can't get it, this game's going to be won by the offensive line, honestly. And that's what I'd be challenging my offensive line to say, hey, this game's on you. We need you. These guys are going to be playing in the NFL. One of the things that we hate seeing, you and I being me, is seeing top draft prospects videos, highlight reels, and it's always Texas. What do you think if Darius Stills is getting drafted number 8 overall or something like that? What do you think video is going to be up there this year? Is him getting his 4th sack? Yeah. Just putting everyone on roller skates.
Denzel Okafor.
Yes.
Yeah. And to the point about Darius Stills, he was projected to be Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year, right? And, he's having another excellent campaign, 3.5 sacks. He had a crazy interception that everybody saw against Kansas. And he's another guy similar to Ossai. He's got that motor, right? And his brother complements him very, very well in the interior. His brother actually has 2 sacks as well. Mm-hmm. So they're able, and when interior pressure is always the hardest pressure for quarterback to deal with, right? Like quarterback mobile like Sam, you can sometimes navigate edge heat. But when you have that interior stuff in your face all the time, that's a different aspect. And on top of that, the things they're able to do with stunts, the ends that they have are able to play off of that because of how good they are when they do send 4. But to your point, they're very effective when they mix it up. Only send 2, 3, whatever, because they got Tony Fields right behind there. And this is going to be the
one that got away.
The one that got away, damn it. We were big Tony Fields fans. Yeah. And so Tony Fields playing behind them. He's been playing very well. He leads their team in tackles. He's got an interception. He's got a couple picks. Like, is he are they as good at those levels as Oklahoma State was collectively? I don't think so. But I think Tony Fields is right there with Malcolm Rodriguez, Amen, Ambi Amiga, and Terrell Bernard in terms of what we saw. Like every week we're seeing some good linebackers, right? So that's somebody we're going to have to deal with, and he's making great plays in coverage as well as the run game. And don't be surprised if he has responsibilities within that zone that Tran is talking about on looking at number 11.
Yep.
Absolutely. So what are the coaching? So let me ask you this. In terms of Sam Ehlinger, health-wise, where's he at? Something's up. I mean, at this point, it's obvious.
What I think?
Yeah,
What I
I
think
mean, just your personal.
60 to 70% of what Sam could be.
Mhm.
I mean, he's missing bad throws. You know, I think he ran designed quarterback power 3 times last week. The only time he ran was when it was necessary. And you know, every time I see him get hit through pressure, it's always right in the ribs. So I don't know if that has
That goes
a
back
lot.
to last season too.
So he's a warrior, but this game specifically scares me about it because of our weak point is the right side on our offensive line, and they do have those two the twins that are just absolute beasts. And they'll have enough people dropped in coverage to have someone at least spying him. So it's not like he's going to have too much space to run and maneuver and work. So this is a game where he's going to have to win with his arm. And honestly, if I'm the defensive coordinator for West Virginia, that's what I'm trying to do. Is said, don't let him run. Make him beat us with your arm right now. Prove to us that he's 100% and he can pick apart our defense. So health wise, he's one hit away for us to have a backup. Back in.
So where I will give Sam, where I know he's hurt is when he's not even being utilized in the run game, and I know part of it was them understanding some of the tactics that Oklahoma State was using, spying him. Totally get that. We still used to do Bam Bam Sam anyway, right? Even try to out leverage them with numbers. Like they weren't even calling his number.
Yeah.
So it's also like, okay, now the coaches are trying to protect you. Something's up there, how he's moving. And the way he was the week before against Baylor, him limping, right? After he had run so much. I can't bail him out with the throwing. I do know it's affecting the throwing, but this has been an issue for him for a while now, to where it's like, yeah, you're banged up and the throwing's getting worse, probably because you're banged up. But from a decision making, accuracy, ball placement, it's been inconsistent.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's something to be said. I think there's some validity to some of the comments we've been receiving about kind of that adrenaline, like, hey, later in the game, he's decisive in making throws, like the Joshua Moore stuff and Jake Smith. But throughout the game, when it's like first quarter, let's get into rhythm and come out sharp, you're spraying the ball all over the place. That's been an issue for Sam. That's nothing new. And that's why I'm concerned about, I think if I'm West Virginia, I'm definitely going to come out and drop coverage and, they conduct the ball down the field, and I'll try to live in, because we got to go to the run game stuff, right? What are the coaches going to do? We've been talking about the offensive line, but whether it's Mike Yurcich or Tom Herman, what are you guys going to do to help the offense out? Because Keontae Ingram is out, high ankle sprain. But from a depth chart perspective, even though he's been at the top of the depth chart, Bijan Robinson's actually been the first one to take carries the last couple games and really kind of been the starter already. It's good. Another time, in-season development, a lot of people saying, well, Bijan should be getting the bulk of the carries, blah, blah, blah. Now, I agree with that. But at the beginning of the season, it was kind of get your feet wet, and he wasn't running as decisively at the beginning of the season as he is now. Just look at the film. And the spurts and bursts were there, but I think you're seeing him develop rapidly. And that's because of his talent level is so high, right? And it's just it was a matter of, I think we said this in our preview for the season, it's a matter of when, not if, right? And B, you need something with a burst back there with the line struggling the way it is. So when there is something to get, he can get it hard, and get it through there. So now you have a combination of Bijan Robinson and Roschon Johnson in this game. And is this a game where, you kind of lean on those guys a little bit more? And I've always said, everybody wants to talk about the running back rotation. That's a fine conversation to have. For me, I'm always looking at, what is the offensive line giving me? Mm-hmm. Because Roschon Johnson, in whatever game that was, I think it was the OU game, when he's getting a handoff and having a defensive lineman at his
right there. Yeah.
Why are we having a conversation about the running back rotation when they're all getting hit in the backfield?
Yeah.
Like let's put we're putting the cart before the horse, kind of, so to speak, right? So it's one of those things now. If they can get something, and what I mean by that is, can we get the running backs involved in the pass game?
Yes.
That's kind of that was Keontae Ingram's thing, and that's where his where his value was for us. But Bijan Robinson has very good hands, and I think that's
So does
somebody
Roshan.
but like with Bijan in particular, show me some different looks, flex him out at times, run a swing like something just to get the ball out quicker, loosen things up, and get our guys in space. We always talk about all these teams, they want to get their athletes the ball in space. Well, what about our athletes, right? Like, what are we doing to help them out, right? So any little thing we can do just to get them going. I like the way Bijan started last week because he had space to run.
Mm-hmm.
And then Oklahoma State tightened up. We can't have that. We got to have that balance there, to me, in this game, and I think it's a good opportunity.
Well, I also think a way we can actually open up running lanes is quick hitters. I think our tight ends could be key in this game. So I know I was saying why is Brewer
Brewer
is our number one option.
Number one option.
But
can we please get some more Jared Wiley?
Wiley, or even Epps. I think, like I said, take what the defense gives you. Would you, as a offensive coordinator, would you take 6 yards of 6 yards of completion?
Yeah.
Play. I'd take 6 yards. Just move the ball real quick, just a little, and then what it does is it makes the zone collapse a little bit, gives you a couple shots on the outside.
And then you can go down. Yeah.
Yeah. So and then it also softens up the defense, the defensive line a little bit, where you can get a little bit more push for your run game. We were talking about getting people coming up with some type of wrinkle to get our athletes in space, like a screen you were talking about to Bijan. One thing that West Virginia did was I showed you the play was how they did a little window dressing to try to get the ball as a screen to Letty Brown. Is what they did was it was a split screen. So half of the offensive line went over to fake a screen to the right for Letty Brown, and then the other half went to the left and they did a little bubble screen for the wide receiver, and they got it. It was an amazing play call. I think they only got like 15 yards off of it, but still, it was very creative how they broke that out, and it wasn't like it was a trick play or anything like that. It was just a great play call, and I'm looking more so to how are we going to do that for our athletes, things like that. So
I agree, and I think the other aspect of that, because we're not going to see Jordan Whittington this week. We'll probably see him after the bye. I think they're shooting for him to come back for Kansas. But Jake Smith, welcome to the party, right? Like yes. Last week, and getting that confidence. He got some media time this week, starting to smile a little bit. Okay, Jake, cool, you're part of this now. He can be a big help because going back again, in-season development, Jake Smith, I want to see these last 4 games. If he might be one of the most important players on the team in terms of developing, to the end of the season.
What's crazy is that this is the first game this season that they have continuity from a wide receiver's perspective.
That's true. Yeah, from week moving forward. Yeah, I agree.
Because he was out every other game, and it was just flipping back and forth between him and Jordan Whittington. And
Schooler and Money.
Yeah, Schooler for some reason having to drain his hip every two hours or something like that. But this is the first time he'll have his starting wide receivers there back-to-back games. So hopefully we'll start seeing the comfort level pick up between the wide receiver and the quarterback as well. So hopefully, I'm not saying it's going to happen. But I think we have the talent there, and I think you and I are in agreement that the key to this offense is the slot, and if the slot's producing or getting separation,
it's so key, man. Because there's a lot of decision making that goes into that position, especially on third downs, right? In terms of where and when teams are playing zone, where you're going to sit down, your leverage in terms of, if I'm bending out my out route here, or I'm on top of this linebacker, I'm in between this safety, a lot of things. The only way Jake Smith's going to progress through that is being on the field and just playing through these, like the way he moved. Earlier in the season, he was running that corner route, and you talked about he kind of bended it a little too much. But now in the Oklahoma State game, back in the end zone, he's just more decisive,
yes.
right? So we got to see the next 4 games. We should make a list of people, since we're talking about in-season development so much. The offensive line, like it can't just be, oh, they're struggling every week. We still got the same 5. We're starting the same 5 people now against West Virginia that we started against UTEP.
UTEP, yep.
Get better, Herb Hand. At some point, like, don't you want to save your job? It's not realistic, in my opinion. But where's the end season? Like, where's the hey, this guy was struggling first couple games. We talked about Marvin Overshown. We talked about Juwan Mitchell. Like, these people are they're like completely different football players a month in, 2 months in. It's like, wow, look at that guy playing with confidence. He knows what he's doing. He got coached up. He's being developed. I'm not seeing that at the offensive line. That's what's frustrating for me. Like, Derek Kerstedter's been playing center now. This is going to be his 7th game playing center. We shouldn't be seeing all the same struggle. There should be some areas we point to, and it's like, oh, okay, he picked that up now. He didn't pick that up 3 weeks ago.
There shouldn't be the snapping issue that we had where we almost gave the ball away.
So, I'm seeing it with Bijan Robinson in terms of his decisiveness, because he's just seeing more football. That's the other thing. He had to get used to the speed of the game, too, without having a real summer. So those things are understandable. Offensive line, we've had the same crew out there. It's not like there's no excuses. It's not like we've been shuffling people in and out of the lineup there, right? So those are some things I'm looking to see. And then personnel, right? Like, coaches, are we learning anything week to week? When are we going to realize Jared Wiley is one of your best 11 that needs to be out there for majority of the snaps? When are you going to realize that you need to be creative and flexing? When you do flex those tight ends out, kick Joshua Moore inside. There's nothing wrong sometimes having more of a 10 personnel look, having Joshua Moore in the slot and Jake Smith. Be creative. Use your orbit motions. I see other teams using orbit motion all the time with their wide receivers. We did it with the triple option a little bit with Kai Money. He got 9 yards. I never saw it again. Be creative. Go into your bag. So, predictions. The other thing, before I get to predictions, West Virginia, they were better last week against Kansas State, but they've also had some discipline issues. They'll cough the ball up. They had a really bad fumble against Texas Tech that lost in the game. They have. I've seen some habits where they have self-inflicted mistakes. Texas did a really good job in the Oklahoma State, because it's not my burn. People talking about in the comments, well, did Texas win or did Oklahoma State lose? That's not my burden, Chief. Right? Like, if my burden is, if you throw the ball right to me, I need to catch it. That's what I'm concerned about.
Texas played on the same field.
Right. Like, I don't give a shit if you didn't know your read. Yeah. Like, that's not, or if you've coughed it up. Like,
that's a part of the game is execution.
Right. It's execution, right? Yeah. And so, and I would argue of our 4 turnovers last week, 3 of them were forced. The one fumble that Spencer Sanders had, okay, he coughed it up. Didn't get the ball back. We got it. Again, that's not Texas's burden. The other 3, we knocked the ball out or caught it, right? Or picked you off. So Texas needs to continue that turnover mindset of taking advantage of other people's mistakes, and when they have self-inflicted issues, and maximizing on that and capitalizing on it. Tran, what's your prediction for the game?
There
comes that nervousness about Tom Herman.
The thing is, not only that, it seems like every time I've picked a team this year, the exact opposite happened. So, I kind of want to continue with the trend to just pick West Virginia just for the jinx or reverse jinx or whatever. But, I I think it's going to be a pretty close game. I think their defense is just too good to underestimate, and I do think they have a formidable offense as well. So I'm gonna go 31-27, Texas.
All right. So how can you not be, knowing what we know about Tom Herman, how can you not be nervous about just us being consistent? Because to me, there's a real opportunity here to build some real, you have momentum right now. You've won 2 in a row. You're starting to develop the nobody believes in us vibe. You can kind of see that from the players now. And, you know, the us against the world, them doing the casket thing with Tom Herman in the locker room, raising from the dead. I like it. Whatever gets y'all together. I love the energy they had in the locker room and the brotherhood that they have. I think that's powerful. I believe that there's some light here for Texas in the Big 12, because if they can pass this test at home, you have a bye week
to get
You're
healthy.
getting more people back. You're gonna get Jordan Whittington back. At some point, you'll get Keontae Ingram back. Like, you're gonna get some more people back. You get Kansas. You gotta play both the Kansas schools, and then your last real big test will be Iowa State. So now it's like real light to finish this thing, right? With that being said, I think we're gonna come out and see another focused team. I think we're starting to see some of the benefits of the staff hires. I don't see Chris Ash as the type of person. I'm seeing consistency from that group of getting better. They're not perfect,
No, they're
okay?
not.
But I see a guy. I've really come around on Chris Ash, and
Same here.
because to me, I'm all about action. I need to see what you're doing, and when I talk about in-season development, I really am seeing that from the defense, and so I think they're going to be able to force some turnovers on Jared Diggy. I think Joseph Ossai is going to continue the party he's had, and I think it's going to get to the point where teams are going to have to start making decisions about number 46. Where now other people start eating even more. Like, Taquan Graham has been quietly eating this year. Like,
Both D
Taquan Graham,
tackles have.
yes. So now it's going to be like, I think that's, and you look at Lady Brown, like, if they can keep them sub 100 yards or keep those carries high, below 4 yards of carry, that type of thing. No, keeping the big gash runs down. I have Texas 34-24. 34-24. I don't think we're going to sweat it out like I feel. Now, I would not be surprised if this turns into the letdown game and it's like, what the hell happened?
Yeah,
Right. And it's just
100%.
more that would just be more justification for the Chris Del Conte stuff that we were already talking about, right? Which, again, Chris Del Conte should be working, doing whatever he needs to do, regardless of what's happening right now. But I think Texas handles their business. I think they go into the bye week with a 3-game winning streak at 5-2. They're now ranked 22 in the country, so that's another reason why people are nervous. Hey, we're ranked now. You know how we get when we get ranked again. And you're coming back. All right, now we come back out of the bye and we have a real sprint. Kansas, Iowa State, Kansas State. Boom. Let's get it. Right? We control our own destiny. Us against the world. So I got 34-24. Texas, y'all let us know how this game is going to play out. And, if there's anything we missed, anything else you want to touch on, please don't forget to come through on Friday night on IG Live. I'll be going on with Texas Longhorns football news. We'll be having a good time on Instagram Live. And appreciate all the support. Make sure you hit that like button and show us some love. Tran, thanks for talking ball with me.
Always, man.
For our time.
Always.
I always look forward to this during the week. Going through our political matters here at the school, as well as West Virginia. Very good team we're playing coming to Austin, but I think we'll get the best of them. Guys, I appreciate y'all. Horns always up. Thank you.